morning, everyone. Our last Friday, hard to even believe. It's like flown past. Pretty unbelievable. And a beautiful day outside. It's sort of like you can feel the end coming. It's always that last little bit in April. Hitting day 87 of 90. Here we are, and we're in an incredibly positive place. I am so thankful to the institution that I have the honor of being a part of and helping to lead. And all of it is possible, and there's not a single thing that gets done without the incredible people that I'm joined with here today. The leadership of the Senate are some of the most talented individuals and public servants that I've had the opportunity to work with. And as we look into the last 3 days of session here, what we have already accomplished with the Senate already having moved 260 bills to the governor's desk. The House we've passed another 301 House bills that are sitting on the governor's desk. So already over 500 bills are ready for signature and review by the executive. This has been an unbelievably productive session, and we are landing the plane at a time when Maryland has a great deal of uncertainty, but Marylanders should be proud of the work that we've been able to do together. When I stood here on January 10th, 87 days ago, we laid out a pretty ambitious agenda. We laid out the importance of having a competitive budget that invests in our core priorities, looking at housing affordability issues, making sure that people feel safe in their communities and addressing the challenges that we'd faced with young people and violence, that we'd take up some important issues and have robust conversations, be it with compassionate choices or with special elections. We would take up innovative technologies like AI and thinking through what the new world order looks like and what is Maryland's role. As we stand here with 3 days left, we have accomplished nearly every one of our goals. And even the bills that didn't make it across, I think, had the substantial and robust discussion that Marylanders should expect out of their General Assembly and their legislature. We have some important work to do, closing down the budget, doing the final pieces of it, getting across the finish line with some of the larger pieces of legislation. But this has been an incredibly, incredibly productive and thoughtful and impressive session. I just want to end on the note of no one could have imagined in the midst of all of these important issues what happened a week ago, last Tuesday, with the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and the work that we've been able to do as a General Assembly to respond in partnership with the governor, who has done a phenomenal job leading, working with President Biden, who will be visiting Baltimore today to see the wreckage himself. It is in the midst of chaos looking for the angels. This has been a story that I think it really tells how Maryland can come together to address the most urgent challenges in a way that is thoughtful and productive. I'm thrilled to see a timeline moving forward. We have an idea now of when the Port of Baltimore's channel will be fully operational again, and it is a story of resilience and building back stronger as we move forward. So with that, I'm going to pause there and hand it over to our leaders here today. I'd ask our Chair of Finance, our one freshman chair this year who has done just an amazing, phenomenal job, if she could please take the podium.
Thank you, Mr. President. So my first year as Chair of Finance has really been very productive, thanks to my committee members and great analysts and staff. We deliberated hundreds of bills, and we passed almost 400 bills out of Finance this year. In my opinion, the most important bill was the Data Privacy Act that will protect our data and how it's used and sold on the internet. We also passed the Kids Code to protect our children's data. The committee did a great deal of work in health care to expand access to care and to increase the health care workforce. Bills like the prior authorization bill, scholarships for healthcare workers with wraparound services, and changing the CNA-GNA licensing. We increased the use of 340B, the pharmacy program, and increased coverage for prosthetic devices for the purpose of athletic activities. One of the big bills that we just finished, we legislated the assisted outpatient therapy. We'll continue to work on improving our emergency department wait times by setting up a new committee, and we created new legislation and regulations for the transfer of nursing homes. The committee passed collective bargaining for libraries, revisited issues concerning recreational cannabis, including licensing and zoning regulations. We added new opportunities for the local delivery of wine, beer, and spirits, and we increased the agricultural products that are available for wineries to use. We addressed issues with paycheck disclosure, misclassification for workers, and prevailing wage violations. And as you know, this week we heard and passed the PORT Act. The Finance Committee had a very busy and very productive year, and I thank the President for giving me this opportunity to lead the Finance Committee. Thank you.
All right, Chair of Judicial Proceedings? Oh, right. Just right from voting.
Just real quick, yeah, well, good morning, everyone. Apologies for being late. Obviously, you know, the Judicial Proceedings Committee has some of the most contentious and emotional issues. We just finished up our voting session. We were debating whether the state of Maryland should outlaw self-administered rape kits. It was very emotional. We have not come to a resolution on that, but we deal with everything from that to exculpatory clauses, whether you can waive your rights away for negligence in any sort of facility, a recreational facility. So we have a wide gambit of stuff, but in the Judicial Proceedings Committee, obviously juvenile justice led the way this year, and as you all are aware, we passed the bill out of the Senate just yesterday, so that's in the House now. But I do want to note the comprehensive nature with which we've approached this issue. $111 million given out in grant money for our public school students that are suffering from mental health issues and substance abuse. $24 million allocated to DJS for programming and support, $43 million for the creation and maintenance of the Governor's Office of Children. So we've taken a really comprehensive approach, and this bill was just a critical part of that, but just I want to make sure that everyone takes an understanding of how comprehensive we've been in this issue this year. We've also done some really amazing things with housing. Two big housing bills moved out of the Judicial Proceedings Committee just last night, the Governor's Housing Bill, which protects tenants and renters' rights, and then also the Tenant Protection Act also passed out of the Senate as well, or out of the Judicial Proceedings Committee. We've also taken monumental steps forward for gun safety. We passed a bill that's going to allow our academic institutions to research the extreme risk protection orders or the red flag laws, so we're going to have more information shared so we understand how those laws are being implemented and the gaps that are potentially there. We've also passed a bill to increase hold the gun industry accountable. So the gun industry, that bill, now the Attorney General has the ability to hold the gun industry liable for gun violence in our state. And I know that the mayor has been a leading proponent of that bill as well in Baltimore City. And women's rights. We passed the Equal Rights Amendment, which will go forward to the voters. And we've also, again, taken several steps to protect victims of sexual assault. So a wide gambit of issues within the Judicial Proceedings Committee. I appreciate the time to address you all, and I'll stand by for questions later. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair of Education, Energy, and the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Triple E Committee, I'll just use that term. It was a super successful, in my opinion, session with a lot of heavy lifts. I mean, just starting with the numbers, we had 348 Senate bills, 213 House bills came our way, so total of 561 bills came through the committee. It's great to be joined up here by the President Pro Tem, critical part of the Triple E Committee. Just let me reel through some. In terms of a broad portfolio, let me start with education. We have jurisdiction over the blueprint. We made a number of revisions on that. Access to attorneys for folks that have disabilities and need some legal help in terms of some disputes with our boards of education. Higher ed, Majority Leader King was part of a work group. We have an approval process now in place through MHEC that will deal with duplication of programs in the HBCUs. That's still, we're trying to resolve that in this final weekend. The Freedom Read Act, also from the Majority Leader, to address a growing movement in our nation to censure, ban certain types of books from our libraries. A lot of bills on AI, information technology. We have major reforms out of the committee in terms of how our state agencies handle cybersecurity and AI. I'm going to give a shout out to Senator Katie Frey-Hester on that front. Senate Bill 1, we're trying to finalize that. Senator Malcolm Augustine, a very significant piece of consumer protection legislation. We're currently dealing with an amendment that was dropped on the bill in the 11th hour over in the House of Delegates. We hope to resolve that over the weekend. A wide array of election bills, ranging from legislation to protect our election officials to special election legislation for legislative vacancies. Unfortunately, still sitting, those bills that came out of this chamber almost unanimously sitting over in the House of Delegates. From the governor's standpoint, we passed a bunch of the governor's bills, one dealing with data centers. If we want to grow our innovation economy, we've got to have high-quality data infrastructure. So the data center bill came out of the Triple E Committee. The Enough Act on childhood poverty, one of the governor's bills, affordable housing. We teamed up with JPR. They did the tenants bill. We have an affordable housing bill on the floor today. I think the big governor's bill on that front, deal with that subject. Very, very busy on energy and environment issues. You no longer can couple energy policy from environmental policy. I'm glad the Senate President made a decision last year to put those topics together, and let me just reel off real quickly. A major reform to the Empower program that we're about to finalize, reforming that, now dealing with greenhouse gas reductions as part of that program, very significant. Offshore wind, we had a major debate on the floor this week to take into account that one of our offshore wind developers had pulled out in January. We're trying to, again, reclaim a leadership position in offshore wind. Solar industry jump-started so that we can get to the 14.5% solar carve-out by 2030 that was laid out in the Clean Energy Jobs Act. I'm going to give a shout-out to Senator Sarah Elfreth on that front. Also, the Watershed Restoration Act on the environmental front that accelerates the restoration of the Chesapeake and Atlantic coastal bays and their watersheds. Bottom line, folks, it was a new committee that we're in the second year, new membership, but I would just make the case at the end of 2 sessions, the committee has gelled, and that has enabled us to do, I think, in many respects, many of the heaviest lift bills of this legislative session. So it's been a pleasure, and with that, I will yield
President Pro Tem?
to the President.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Yes, your budget and tax, yes, right, yes.
Says, we pass the budget and soon they forget, huh?
Not yet.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You know, the great part of coming after the policy committees is listening to all the good things that they do and knowing that on the budget committees, we have the opportunity and we have the responsibility to help fund all those things that they are working on. And, you know, in the last couple of days, I've spent a lot of time with a lot of you. I feel like I don't know what else I could say to you all. But what I would start with was going back to the beginning. This is a $63 billion budget, and a $63 billion budget that does all the things that our policy committees work on. And it sometimes may get lost in that at the end of the day when we're working on these conference committees to get the finalization of the budget, we're dealing with several $100 million to resolve the final budget, which we did, and I'm very proud of the way in which we did. I'm very proud of the way in which we worked with the House. And it's all about taking all these values, knowing all the component parts of what government does to help folks throughout the state, how to build the state, how to work on commerce and improve everything about our lives. We stayed firm on our 2 basic premises this year in terms of education and ensuring that we were providing the best possible opportunity for every child in the state. And of course, we dealt with a lot of transportation this year. I'm proud of all those things. The conference was very successful, I believe. We know that those things cost, and we do have to raise some revenues now and then to cover those costs. But I think we did it in an efficient way and a responsible way. And I believe the things that we can talk about in terms of what we've achieved, the additional money for education that we put forward, the additional money for transportation, the roads projects, the local highway money, the transit money, the local transportation in all throughout the state in every community. We worked on all of those things, and I really think it was a success. But again, bottom line, this is a big budget, and it's got a lot involved in it, from public safety to the environment, you name it. We're focused on all those things, and when we're dealing with the budget, we literally, the parts that sometimes don't get the focus on can be very important to people's lives, and I'm very proud of the whole picture.
Now actually to our President.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Chair Gazzoni. You know, when I think about these leaders who have led us through this very, very successful session, I'm just grateful for what they've done because there's balance in all of what they've done, and it's very, very thoughtful. And I think of it pretty much in 4 different categories: investment, opportunity, protection, and accountability. And each of them have shared that. From the investment standpoint, the chair talked about our $63 billion balanced budget that really supports all of our policies, particularly education. With regard to opportunity, Chair Feldman, he talked about, which we know is very important to us, how we've created opportunity in this solar energy. Clean energy is our future. We want to be a part of it, and we have legislation that supports that. And when you think about protection, Chair Bidel, she talked about data privacy and how that's such an important part of the things that we do to protect our citizens. And then finally, on accountability, Chair Smith, he talked about making sure that the gun industry is held accountable for some of the gun violence that we see plaguing us. This is just such a balanced, successful session that we have had, and I'm just very proud to be a part of it. And I just will turn it back over to
Our Chair of Executive
our Chair of
Nominations.
Executive Noms.
Oh, our other freshman chair. We do have 2
Oh,
freshman chairs,
yes,
yes.
indeed. No problem. Good morning, Senator Antonio Hayes for Executive Noms. So we have about 600 various appointments that the governor make each year. Executive Noms here, about 200 of them. We had big shoes to follow, and Senator Bidel, last year, we had a really busy year with a new administration, more than 1,000 nominations. This year, we had about 457 appointments. We held back about 12 of them. Unlike my colleagues here, we really make sure that we stand up the people in government. And so we had we didn't have as many appointment secretaries or cabinet level secretaries this year. We did have the Secretary of Higher Education, the administrator for the Cannabis Commission. But in all total, out of 457, I think we held back about a dozen nominations. And one of the things that we did, for as policy was we codified, some of the operations of the committee, making sure that once our work is done, come sine die, that, if we don't take any action on those appointments, the governor has the opportunity, maybe in the interim, to bring them back. But if in the case where, we've codified in law now, if we don't take any action on any of the nominations, those seats are vacant. And so we'll continue to work with the administration in the interim to look forward to a great, what I think, plethora and diversity of individuals to serve our state. Mr. President.
Well, I think that sort of rounds it out. That's our, the scope of unbelievable number of issues. With 3 days left, we're almost there on all of them. So, open it up.
Mr. President, the AGE is outside circling the Constellation is outside circling the State House in protest of SB 1. They say it does not help consumers and it will kill, well, in their words, it will make it impossible to do business in Maryland, and customers will lose the ability to shop for better rate. Somebody please respond to that.
Yeah, sure. Certainly, I'll give just the overview. Obviously, we have a different opinion. We believe in free markets, but free markets don't run wild. Free markets, we protect individuals and we protect Marylanders by having free markets that are regulated appropriately. And so the fundamental basis of SB 1 is to protect consumers from unfair trade practices that we've seen in this industry. We've seen the retail energy market, unfortunately, have a number of bad actors. I'm not saying to any individual company. Certainly, Constellation is an important business in my own district, and they have a number of different business lines and have done some really innovative things with clean energy. But on the retail sales market of retail energy, if there are abuses, they have to be curbed. And so that's what the bill is about, and that's what we're moving forward. Anything else?
What's the last day looking like? Just like the Preakness bill is one, or Pimlico bill is one that'll be out there. Can you speak to that and some other issues that will be kind of the loose ends of the last day?
I think the last day, there are some big issues that are outstanding. All of them won't get done on the last day, and that's okay. We have to pass the budget. We have to pass juvenile crime, which we said from the beginning, and we have a number of bills that have already made it to the governor's desk. I think we'll see some conclusion on the housing bill. We'll see conclusion on a number of issues coming out of the finance committee, in all of the different areas. I would say it's not going to be a crazy last day. All the big, major, challenging, most complex things have really moved forward. And so it'll be busy. We'll do a lot of the kind of cleanup of some of the last minute things. But, horse racing is one that we're going to have to kind of navigate through the weekend. But I have every confidence in the world that we have the right people making decisions, and we'll get to the right place in the next 72 hours.
Does that mean you think the Pimlico bill will make it across the finish line?
I think we'll see. We'll see. Wire to wire.
You had mentioned a few bills.
No, just 1:30 today,
right.
public hearing on the bill. It's a full hearing, I'm sorry, full hearing. At this point in session, usually we're just doing sort of sponsor only. But we thought this was important, that we needed to do a full hearing, and so we've invited whoever wants to come testify to participate in the process.
You had mentioned a few bills that were, that had passed on unanimously, the election bill sitting in the House. What are your concerns about that? What's the holdup?
I think that's a question for the House. It passed unanimously in the Senate out of our EEE committee. I think this is the third time that we've passed it over. I think, it's okay. We have different opinions about how to accomplish something, same values. I think at the moment we'll see what happens in the next 72 hours. We're hopeful that the House sees the value of having individuals vote for replacement electeds, and so we'll see where it lands.
No, go ahead.
President Ferguson, in light of the bridge collapse, how would you assess how the legislature has addressed immigrant and immigration worker issues this session?
I think, well, hopefully, we've been incredible. I'm certain we've really done a lot of work to protect workers across Maryland, and I think especially for our immigrant community, one of the important bills that we moved forward this year was the Access to Care bill, which Senator from Baltimore City was the lead sponsor on and really pushed, came through our Finance Committee, which provides access to health insurance for everyone that is a resident in the state of Maryland. That is fundamental. So if we want to have a strong workforce, we got to have a healthy workforce. And when people don't have the ability to access health insurance, it makes it difficult to have a strong and healthy workforce. And so I think that's been one issue in particular that has been moving forward. I think that what happened on the bridge is horrifically traumatic. And I think one of the things that we've wanted to do is protect others who are in a similarly dangerous situation. And so we've passed a work zone safety bill for construction workers. You'll see in the Port Act, thanks to the administration, is moving forward with the Fallen Transportation Workers Scholarship Fund. Certainly we wish there were no one participating in that fund, but sadly we know how dangerous this work is, and we saw it on hand last week. I'm really proud of the work that we were able to do. I don't know if there's anything else that.
Does this raise any issues to look forward to in the future, off the top of your head?
Well, certainly. We're back every year because the issues change, and there's going to be things that we're going to have to navigate and move forward. I think the bridge collapse in particular, we're still learning things each and every day. And so I can imagine a month from now, we're going to have a different picture and series of facts that make us have to think differently about transportation issues, workforce issues, you name it. And so that's why we passed in the budget a revised train commission that's looking at the long-term needs of infrastructure and transportation. This is why we have to be the thoughtful, deliberative body. That's the purpose of the General Assembly. The executive executes. When there's an emergency, the governor shows up and is there to act. That is how the system is structured. We're the policy body. We are the ones that have the duty to be thoughtful and deliberative and try to set up the framework for 6.5 Marylanders to be their best selves. And I think that's what we've accomplished this year.
Chair Feldman, what questions for you remain for this program approval process?
Well, we have a conference committee that's been set up, and the House actually this was Majority Leader King's bill, and if Nancy wants to say anything, bottom line is there was a work group. The Senate position basically put into law or codified the recommendations of the work group. The House did that and then added a fairly significant amendment. So it's really about that House amendment that was added on late. And I don't know if Senator King, who was on the work group and is sponsor of the bill, wanted to add anything.
Oops, excuse me. We had an agreement that all the universities, all the players in the whole process agreed to, and the House then added amendments to it. And we don't have agreement with all the college presidents as to those amendments. So we're still working through that to try and figure it out in the next 72 hours.
Chair Smith, good morning. Quick question, sir.
I'm sorry if you may have already talked about it, but with the juvenile legislation and law reform, is it pretty much now on the House side, being that the Senate has done its duty with the bill? And are you still getting phone calls, emails, texts, letters from pigeons, from advocates and some state attorneys saying, hey, we need more of this, you should have had that?
Pigeons and Big Bird, right? Some people remember that. Anyway, no, so look, we worked in consultation with the House, and the bill passed off of the Senate floor last night, and so it's in the orbit of the House right now, and I'm optimistic that they'll pass it through.
How do you
What
feel
about
about?
some comments? Are they still coming through to you?
There's constant feedback. This is a constant feedback loop here, yeah. But I'm confident in the product that we put forward. It was a deliberative process. All stakeholders brought to the table. Not everyone was completely happy with it, but it's a good product, and I'm confident that the House will push it through.
What didn't make it into the juvenile plan that you wish would have made it that was in the Senate version originally?
No, actually, I'm very happy with the final product, honestly. I think we sat down with our House counterparts, and I think we made the bill better. And so I'm actually very happy with the bill.
Chair Gazon, I wanted to ask about the SDAT notification bill, which is now out of the House and over to the Senate. You've got 2 days roughly to do. Is there enough time to pass that bill, and what are the challenges that lie in front of it?
Plenty of time.
What are the challenges that lie in front of it?
I'm not particularly worried about the situation. I think look, we need to be fair to every property owner in the state, and this will allow for that to continue.
Could we get an update on how the text message warning system is developing from?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is fully operational. I know that there was a message that went out in air about a fire. It was through a testing process, and so as the system is being honed, this was a testing system that a single individual, when trying to work on a specific function, hit the wrong button. And so, that's what happens with new systems. Do I wish it hadn't happened? Of course. I know that the head of our OIS systems has been very frustrated personally and has worked through other protocols to make sure that can't happen again. Bottom line is it works. And if there is an emergency, we have a system to notify. I think we learned a lot this session from that experience, and I feel confident that the Rave Alert is the right system in place.
So it's in effect now?
It is.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, okay. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.